Okay, first of all, my name's Julie Jozwiak. I actually am an East English Village resident. I have been for 22 years. So I have felt the pain that everybody's feeling lately in our heavily tree-lined communities. I've been with DTE for only 6 years, and only this year, just before COVID, took on the position of a regional relations manager for the city of Detroit specifically. What that means is I cover it all from the foundation to gas and electric. I am not an expert, but I talk to them and learn things along the way. And so basically I'm going to give you an interview. I'm going to give you some information today that I've gleaned from our engineers. And if there's questions I can't answer, I don't pretend to know the answer. I will get you the answers to your questions. And so I can go through this. I don't mind questions along the way. I have to admit, sometimes it's hard to catch the chat while I'm doing this. So again, if anybody, Jackie or anybody want to help, just wave your hands and I'll stop and get to one of those questions. All right.
Got it.
Okay.
All right.
Just want to start off with this image. So on June 10th, this came through the area, and it's kind of an odd because they're trying to show a 3D image here and it's showing elevation. And if you look at this spike that goes well over 40,000 feet, it really shows storm intensity. This blew right through our neighborhood. So Morningside, Cornerstone, East English Village, Grosse Pointe. And we hadn't seen anything like this. Like even the predictions, DTE was looking at this and they said they hadn't seen even a prediction of like this since like 2013. So I just want to give you some just background on what blew through here in June, okay? And to get an idea of how we're configured, so when it comes to circuits and substations, you're really part of a different community. So circuits and substations do not know city boundaries. They do not know neighborhood boundaries. They do kind of know highway boundaries, as you can kind of see that. So here I'm going to look at the major ones in our area. One is called Denver, and you can see it goes all the way down, mostly in the Grosse Pointes actually, and the substation is right where that red dot is. Then we have really bad color configurations here, but there's a Balfour substation that serves all these circuits. Substation's located here. And then we have Weyburn, which serves the bottom half of these circuits here. And then Chandler over here. So again, you have one substation and it serves multiple circuits. A substation is fed by underground wiring. So that's when you see manholes coming up. There are cables in our main streets. And that's where the power is coming into the substation. Then it comes up to all the overheads throughout the neighborhood. And they always say draft only because these circuits can change on a moment's notice, especially during a storm. They try to, sometimes they'll jumper over to something so that people have power, get it back as quick as possible. But this is in particular the Morningside community. So we have different colors here. It's talking about different circuits. And right here, where there's no color, that's a circuit Balfour 2039 that actually goes over Outer Drive into East English Village, as does this Denver one over here. So circuits have, we do some work based on the substation they're tied to, and generally that would be like tree trimming. So for example, Denver, every circuit in Denver is up for maintenance tree trimming in 2021, actually to start January 2021. And I believe we have Weyburn as well. That's going to be 2021. These circuits, we haven't been trimming yet to 5-year intervals, but that's the goal. So around 2013 is when DTE went to the Public Service Commission and said, you know, we need the funding to get on this and to get on regular intervals. So we are not yet at the 5-year interval. A lot of what you see here, the last maintenance interval or maintenance tree trim was in 2012. Some of them though were done more recently. Balfour 2039 in fact was done in 2018. Another Balfour 2182 was done in 2017. And some of those were done because at the time, again, that circuit was showing not very good performance. So we always, you know, again, we're tracking that. In fact, weekly I take part in meetings that are looking at absolutely every circuit in our system. We have 3,500 of them. So we rank these and generally you're calling the top 250 the hot ones. You do have 3 circuits that are in that, Balfour 1210, Balfour 2039, that's this right here, and Denver 222, which is down here, okay? So again, the higher you are in that rank, that means we're looking at that to say, hey, we may have had a maintenance schedule for this in the next year or the following, but we may need to move it up current. So again, DTE is looking at that every week. The types of maintenance that they do, and I have them here, grid work types. First of all, tree trim is number one. That's 75% of your issues, and we're living in a forest here, right? That accounts for 75% of outages. Actually, no matter where you are in DTE's territory, trees are number one. But we do some other stuff we call 4.8 kV hardening. This is where you're literally looking at every single pole, every single line, and looking at all the connections and the types of transformers they have and seeing if any of those pieces need replacement. We are eventually, but this is like probably 6 to 10 years from now, going to be completely changing over the system to what they call a 13.2 kV system. Again, more terms. But for now, we call it hardening because you want to make sure every component on all these poles is being taken care of. So again, that is in our plans as well. Some of these circuits to Denver, 2222, this is really high priority. So you'll see us working there this summer. We're also working on Weyburn, this one, 1161 over here this summer. And again, a lot of the storm issues are what prompted this work to have to be done right away because those trees caused quite a bit of damage. If they didn't take down a line, they may have damaged the pole, damaged an existing line that maybe you got it up just so people could have power, but now we have to go back and make sure that's hardened. Gosh, I could sit here and keep talking about this forever, but that's the basics. One thing about, so this is actually today, so yes, hot off the presses, this happened, if you were in Denver 2222 this morning, you were affected by this, and you can see how it just cleaved right off of the tree. It hit every line, took it all down. So, and then there was no storm this morning, right? So what you have are trees that were affected by previous storms and they're essentially on their last leg. And again, this morning is when this one decided to cleave off and it brought everything down with it. This is actually a photo. This happens to be Grosse Pointe Woods, but it was a photo I had available. Seemingly healthy trees went down. I mean, in this one, you can't even see any hollow, and a lot of times you'll see that. So It's really difficult with these trees to know what you should be cutting back, what you should be like, hey, is this at the end of its life? You don't know until a strong wind can possibly take it down.
Yeah.
Okay, on this image, I went to my own backyard, which may not be the best, but it was the most convenient picture I could find. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what you have above your head here. So the first lines that you see, the closest to the ground and generally the thickest, are the Comcast and your AT&T and any fiber wires. And a lot of times you'll see quite a bit of trees wrapped up in here. It's low voltage. DTE does not own these lines. They also, because they're low voltage, they don't get trimmed by the telecom companies that often. I get a lot of calls when stuff is tangled up in these. DTE does not come out to trim these lines. So again, they are the lowest lines and they're the heaviest lines, you'll see. Often they'll have vines around them. And frankly, it would be nice if they weren't there, but generally like vines and stuff don't damage anybody's circuit. The next set of wires you'll see, and actually you'll see about 4 here, are secondary wires. And those are the ones that have the lower voltage that's coming to your house. So your house wire is going to come off of one of these sets. And then finally, DTE primary at the very top of the poles, and that's where you have high voltage wires. This is the one where, like, if tree limbs are wet and they touch these, you can see sparks. As long as it's not something that's going to take down the line, it's not dangerous, but it certainly is, I know, uncomfortable to watch. As you can see from these trees in my backyard, I've had to watch it. So as I said, we do come around with regular tree maintenance and it's getting better. We're getting to 5-year cycles, and that's going to be very important to do. If you have an issue where you have a tree and it's on that wire, and I've had this happen myself. In fact, the tree limb was actually scarred from growing on the wire. We do have a way that you can reach out and ask DTE to come look at it for you. Again, they're going to look for stuff that could actually bring a wire down, not for branches that are brushing against the wire. Again, that's kind of like preventing squirrels from hitting the wire, right? Small things like that are not going to bring down the wire, but there is a way. Go to the DTE website and you can do a tree trim inquiry. And generally, as long as we're not in storm, because that means all of our trimmers are out trying to get everybody back on, I would say like a 5 to 7 business days before they can get an investigator out, and they'll let you know what they saw. And one thing about this too, and I don't have a good picture of it, I apologize, is the wire from the pole and back to your house is considered yours. So DTE does not do tree trimming along that service drop. If you called and said a tree fell on it, they never want a dangerous situation, so they can probably come and take that down and trim it away. It would be left in your yard. But again, that is your responsibility, even for maintenance tree trimming. So try to get a hold of that, again, before it gets harder to take care of. And as I mentioned that, another thing, when we come through during storm, so we only have so many tree trimming crews, right? They're coming through cut and go, and they cut so that the linemen can come up and now make the repair. So when they're cutting those branches, they're going to be left in your yard. And why would they do that? One is they got to get going to the next house to get people back on. Another thing to remember, though, is really these are our trees as homeowners. They're ours. They don't belong to the utility. The utility has a right to cut your trees around their wires because they have an easement, but they're ours. So we're really, in the end, responsible for them. So that said, sorry about that. And again, these are things off the website, and Jackie, I'll send you these in PDF versions if you want to send them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think everyone would love to have them.
Yeah, and again, it talks about what is unfortunately not really happening in our neighborhoods, because again, we've been here so long, and we have these beautiful, majestic trees that look like the ones on the right side of the picture, and they're right here on top of the poles. So DT is going to come in when they maintenance tree trim and do a 10-foot radius around those secondaries and primaries. And if your trees in back of your house are like mine, I think it's an older elm that I have, it's messy. It grows like 10 feet a year. So the branch type stuff, I've got them all over the wires. And that's going to happen in that 5-year interval. If I don't want that to happen, what I have to do is once DTE comes and clears that, so it's at a safe distance where I can call that contractor, cut the tree. I mean, really, again, it's my tree, it's on my property. If I want trees back there, I got to look at shorter trees, like a 20-foot tree. This looks like a flowering crab to me, maybe a Japanese maple. And again, it's all if you have sun back there. But the best thing to do is to only put trees back there that are not going to hit those wires. They're not going to grow to that height. If you do have like an old, we have many in the neighborhoods, 100 to 200-year-old oak that's growing next to here, DT is probably not going to cut that down, okay? But they will cut the branches away, and it would be, again, your responsibility if you want that large a tree removed. They will remove smaller trees completely, but they'll only do that with your permission. One of the challenges we have, as you can imagine, a lot of people love their trees, and they don't want them cut. The problem is the whole circuit depends on everybody agreeing to get some of this vegetation away. Right. So if you have people that say no, and again, we don't like to be forceful, they're not the utilities trees, the property owners own them, right? So if they don't let us cut severely, that's probably going to become a problem before the next maintenance schedule. And when we do tree trim maintenance, by the way, we chop those into kind of fireplace size logs, and we'll leave them on the property. If you don't have any use for them or can't find a friend that has a use for them, you can get in touch, use that tree trim form, and they will come pick them up. Again, it's just part of like some people find that useful, and obviously if they do, it's more efficient for everybody. So just a note, different times, if you have a storm, you're gonna have larger limbs left on your property. Tree trim maintenance, they're going to chop them up and leave them in a nice pile for you. And hopefully it's something that you can use. Okay. Again, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say we're just about ready to take questions.
Okay, yep. All right. And again, I'll pass this along. We have types of trees that might be, useful for you to plant. I also have something from the Department of Natural Resources that, you don't want to plant in this area. And before I do stop with the tree trimming and power outage, I want everybody on this phone just remember as a takeaway, a COVID message. As we're coming out of the time when we have protections for 100% protections for shut off, there's a lot of resources for folks out there. DTE's been doing a lot of work to make sure, especially our low income customers, but anybody is protected from any service interruption. So get the word out to have folks call the 1-800 number. And we've trained people to understand, like the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. We've got like 60 specialists that can help, again, get people the financial assistance they need.